Bad language coming at ya. Don't watch if you're a kid. What's going on, you bleeding drongos? The wino is back to talk about the latest UFC card, Makhachev versus Moises, the Mac Attack versus the Moist Man. And look, very fun card. We had some knockouts. We had some subs. Every fight pretty much was pretty fun. There weren't any pure duds on there. And Makhachev, he moves on to even greater heights. He is the man. No one wants to fight right now. He is definitely a real worry for the division. And you got to think he's only a couple of fights away. He called out RDA at the end, and I'm like, I think you should be setting your sights higher at this point, mate. And look, I know that fight was brought up in the past, but I think that's a terrible fight for RDA. You look at, like, he had a very successful lightweight career, then he went up to welterweight and was doing very well. But you look at what knocked him back down to lightweight, and it was pretty much dominant wrestlers. Colby, Kamaru, Michael Chiesa, all completely dominated him with wrestling. And Makhachev definitely has that heavy wrestling game to dominate RDA pretty much. So if I was RDA, I wouldn't be wanting that fight for sure. And if I was Makhachev, I'd be aiming higher. So, yeah, I think maybe Chandler, that'd be a fun one. But anyway, let's get to the fight. It was pretty good. It was mainly about just the display of dominance from Makhachev. First round, it started out pretty cagey, but about halfway through, Makhachev started opening up, landing some good strikes. This is a bit of a theme throughout the card. Usually you see the cards develop a bit of a theme, and on this one, I found the theme was the grapplers outstriking their opponents a lot of the time. We had Makhachev outstriking. We had Miesha Tate outstriking Renault for most of her fight, and Renault's the better striker. We had Rodolfo Vieira outstriking mainly Dustin Stoltzfus. We had Sergey Morozov pretty much outstriking Khalid Taha. And, yeah, maybe even more. But, like I said, that seemed to be the theme of the card. But anyway, back to that first round. And, yeah, Makhachev starts opening up, lands some good strikes, and in the last minute or so, finally goes for a takedown, gets it, pretty much rides the rest of the round out on top. Second round, comes out, and he goes in for the clinch, and Moises did very well here. Gets double underhooks, turns Makhachev onto the cage. Moises gets the takedown, and you're like, oh, shit, this could be interesting, especially with Moises' black belt in jiu-jitsu. But Makhachev turns to his belly, gets to like turtle position to start getting up, and Moises just got a little overzealous, jumped on the back, but jumped too high. And he was pretty much already too high as soon as he was on the back. And then all Makhachev did was like lift his level a little bit, and Moises started getting shaken off the top. And he should have bailed out at that moment, because you saw it happening. And what you saw happening is what happened. He just slid off the top. Makhachev gets on top and, pretty much dominates the rest of the round with his wrestling. And third round, pretty much more of the same. Makhachev winning with the strikes, also winning with the grappling. And then fourth round, Makhachev comes out. He almost gets a big slam, but Moises kind of saves it by going for a triangle and posting well on his arm as Makhachev was putting him down. And then Makhachev ends up... How'd he finish it? He got to the back and finished with a rear naked choke. A very dominant win for Makhachev, choking out a black belt and jiu-jitsu specialist, and never really looked in trouble the whole fight. So bigger and better things for him next. Next fight on the card was Miesha Tate versus Renault. Tate coming back after about 5 years, and goddamn, I thought we might see some ring rust from her. I had Renault on a little outsider multi, because I was like, look, Renault is a fucking, decent fighter, and Miesha's had 5 years off. There's got to be some ring rust, but Miesha came back looking as sharp as ever. Maybe one of her best performances I've seen from her. And as I already mentioned, she outstruck Renault for most of it. She outstruck her in the first, and she also got her takedown. when she got her takedown, she just dominated from the top. The second, Renault was getting some good striking going. That's probably the only round Renault won the striking in. But even that round, Misha still took her down and dominated. And then the third round, Misha landed a big jab, looked like it rocked Renault. And then Misha gets the takedown again and gets on the back, flattens her out, and finishes with ground and pound. So not just looking super sharp, not just looking good in the striking, and her wrestling's just as good as ever, but actually finishing the fight. So very, very impressive fight back for Misha. And yeah, she wants a fast track to the title. And you can understand, she retired at the top of the division. So she's just come back, had kind of like a tune-up fight, getting back into it. I think one or two more fights, she could be at the title. And I think since Amanda's already matched up with Juliana Pena, how about Irene Aldana? It's a tough fight for Mish, and that's just a gimme for if you set that fight up. That's the winner of that gets the next crack at the title. If Aldana can beat Mish, she's already beat most of the girls in the division. And then if Mish can beat Aldana's right up there. So she's had her tune-up. She's beat someone at the top of the division. Boom, straight back into title contention. So that's the fight I'd like to see. But overall, look, it was great to see Mish come back and get the win. But also, I kind of was hoping Renault might be able to go out on a win. But you can't have it both ways. So Mish is the one who ended up getting it. And I suppose that's good in the long run because she's the one still going now. So... yeah, onwards and upwards. Next fight down the card. Was it Billy Q? Was that the Billy Q? No, it was Stevens. It was Stevens versus Gamrot. And, geez, this one was over quick. It was a really strong grappling display by Gamrot. He just came in straight away, ankle-picked Jeremy, took him down pretty much with ease. Jeremy was attacking a Kimura. I don't think he ever thought he was going to get the Kimura, but it was more using it for a sweep or to get up. But Gamrot just kind of jumps out of guard or half guard that he was in and gets himself to north-south to kind of alleviate the positioning of that Kimura. And then, gets his arm out of it pretty easily. And then from north-south, starts attacking a Kimura of his own. Fucking turnabout is fair play, eh? So it took him a while to get Jeremy to separate his hands. That's where the battle was for Jeremy. But once those hands were separated, it was seconds before Gamrot lifted it up to get it up on his side and then wrenched it behind his back and got the tap pretty quickly. So very impressive by Gamrot. Expert grappling skills on display. And I know that's Jeremy's fifth loss in a row, but it's his first one back at lightweight. And I imagine that was fairly short notice because he had the fight with Drakkar Close that fell through from the push in the weigh-ins, which was a really weird situation. And, I doubt there was enough time for a full training camp in between that falling out and this Gamrot fight. So I hope Jeremy gets at least one more fight at lightweight, and I hope he wins it because I don't want to see him getting cut. All right, the next fight down, I believe, was Rodolfo Vieira versus Dustin Stoltzfus. And very, very impressive by Vieira. I had him winning the first two rounds. There could be arguments for Stoltzfus maybe getting those ones. First, because, look, it was pretty close on the feet. The commentators were only talking about what Vieira was doing. And yes, he was landing some really good jabs and some solid jabs. His jab was so impressive to me. I don't remember seeing that too much from him in his previous fights, but that's probably because he pretty much went straight for clinches and takedowns to work his jiu-jitsu in his prior fights. Whereas this one, he learned from his last fight against Fluffy Hernandez not to gas himself going too hard for those clinch takedowns and to pace himself out a bit. And he really used the jab well. Not only was he landing a lot, but he had a lot of snap, a lot of power in that jab. And I'm like, God damn, he's developed himself a nice little jab. But Stoltzfus was landing a lot of jabs too. Probably not quite as hard as Vieira's and not quite as many, but he was landing some and he was landing some other strikes. And the commentators pretty much never mentioned his jabs and were going all nuts for Vieira's, although Vieira's were very impressive. And then you could say, the argument for Stoltzfus is that he was keeping it fairly close on the feet for most of that round, even though he was getting beat. And then at the end, he came in with a big, kind of like a flying knee to the body, and Rodolfo dropped down to go for a takedown. Whether he dropped from the impact of the knee or like he just thought here's a good chance to get underneath his center of gravity and try to get a takedown. But Stoltz was kind of just smushed him down, and he kind of ended up on top. So it's like keeping up fairly close, and then that big action at the end, maybe he could have stole it, but personally I didn't think that was enough to take it back off Vieira. And then the second round is one that we see so often. It's the question of volume over the significance of the strikes, because Vieira did land a lot more from what it seemed, and it was mostly those jabs again. And those jabs were impactful. It's not like they were just pitter-patter jabs. They were nice, stiff jabs. But the hardest few strikes in the round, you'd have to say, came for Stoltzfus. When he'd open up with combinations, he'd usually land at least one of them, usually more, and with a bit of power. But the overall of the round, definitely I think Vieira got it. And then it didn't even matter in the end because Vieira got the finish in the third. He got a couple takedowns, Stoltzfus making his way back up. And after the second takedown, Stoltzfus gets back up, but Vieira jumps straight to his back, and he's kind of backpacking him at this point, and he attacks a rear naked choke, and he sinks it in, standing. Stoltzfus standing, him in the backpack position. And, yeah, once he had that in, you could tell how tight it was and how much of a professional jiu-jitsu player that Vieira is, because Stoltzfus fell back, and pretty much the instant he hit the ground, he was already tapping. So Vieira, very, very impressive. Very good bounce back from his last win, although the mental scars from that last win do seem to be playing on him a bit. He does seem to, look like he second guesses himself a little bit, but he's definitely got the technique and the physical abilities to go far in this division. Let's hope he can have the mentality to match it. Because then if he can put it all together, we got a real contender at middleweight. Then I think we get to the Billy Q versus Gabriel Benitez fight. I'll double check. Let me see. Yeah, and this for me was fight of the night. I didn't check the results to see who got fight of the night, who got performance of the night, everything like that. But this had to be fight of the night. So much fun, this one. Billy Q dropping Benitez in the first, getting to his back and spending most of the round on that back. He spent a lot of the time in the fight on Benitez's back. The second round was pretty similar to the first, and Billy Q really upping the striking game. The thing is, I thought Billy Q was pretty tired at the end of the first. I thought, oh shit, has he already gassed himself, like going for rear nakeds and shit? But no, he kind of kept up that same level of gasness for the rest of the fight and was able to keep going. And Benitez started to lose a bit of gas towards the end of the second. But yeah, Billy Q was putting on some real heavy damage on him in the second round. And then the third, like, Benitez knew he had to come out and win it. And goddamn, didn't he try? He fucking dropped Billy Q at the start of that round. It was like, oh shit, Billy Q, you're going to need to fucking watch out for yourself. But he did survive. And he was getting beat on the feet this round and went for a real timely takedown, kind of like an inside reap, I think it was. I'd have to look again. But gets that takedown, ends up getting the back when Benitez is trying to get up, and from the back, finished it with strikes. You don't see that very often. And Benitez had already taken so much damage. The doctor, I believe, had warned the ref in between the second and third. He's like, look, it can still fight, but if he takes too much more punishment, you're going to have to call it. And from the back, Billy was actually getting some good fucking leverage on his punches and landing some good ground and pound from bottom back too, not from top back, which you do see ground and pound finishes quite often. But he was on his back, Benitez on top of him, with Billy on his back with the body triangle in, the kind of rear naked choke attack position usually. But yeah, to see it finish with strikes from there is crazy. And that had to get fight of the night. That was such a fun fight. Benitez's eye was almost completely closed, but he just had enough of a slit in it to be able to see through and not get the fight ended for the closed eye. But he had like pretty much like a baseball under his eye. Might have been a broken orbital. And that was the main card. So much fun on that main card. And look, the prelims were pretty good too. So I'll start from the bottom and go up on the prelims. It opened with Alan Badeau versus Rodrigo Nascimento, and this was just a tale of two rounds, really. Badeau was pretty much dominating it in the first round, landing some heavy strikes. Almost looked like he came close to finishing at the end of that first. Like, he had Nascimento in some real trouble, rocked him hard, and Nascimento survived, but he took such damage that the ref actually got the doctor to check on him in between rounds. Like, after they'd had the break before he started the next round, he got the doctor to have a look, and he's like, "No, yeah, he's good. Go ahead." I was like, "Shit, wasn't expecting that." But this is where Badeau needs to work. It looks like he really needs some work on his gas tank, because he was pretty much already out of gas at the start of the second round. The other thing is, it seems like, one, his punches are coming slower because he's gassed a bit, but Nascimento also seemed to have got his reads in by this time and had his eye in. So all these strikes and combinations that Badeau was throwing in the first and landing, his percentages just dropped absolutely through the floor in the second round, because Nascimento was able to avoid most of them, block the ones that he was in range for the most part. And he started working behind a really strong jab himself, and then turned it up with the power shots as he started wearing Badeau down. And, finished him up against the cage with strikes. So absolute turnaround. Great to see a comeback, and great way to open the card. Next fight on the card was it was Gordon versus Figueiredo. And this one, I had Gordon winning. I think I had it 29-28, but I can understand the argument for 30-27. But this was mainly a case of Figueiredo making a bad mistake in the third. Like, Gordon, the whole fight, you could see how much he wanted it, but just wanting it isn't enough. Because second round in particular, he was pressing all the action, but he wasn't really landing many strikes because Figueiredo was staying out of the way of him, and he wasn't getting any takedowns. Like, Figueiredo was defending, and a good way through that second round, Figueiredo started opening up with strikes, and it's like, even though Gordon was the one coming forward for most of that round, Figueiredo's taken it back with actually landing stuff, but then Gordon got the takedown right at the end of the round and pretty much stole the round back from him. So the big mistake I was talking about was the third, because on two of the three judges' cards, it was a 29-28, and the third is the only one that you wouldn't make any argument for Figueiredo, because there are some arguments you can make in both the first and the second for Figueiredo. So 2 out of 3 of the judges had given him one of those first two. So he's coming into the third. If he wins the third, he would have won a split decision. But he comes in with like a flying knee or a fly kick or something, just silly out of the gates. And Gordon just kind of pushed him over from it and got on top and rode out most of the round in top position. And Figueiredo was able to get up towards the end of the round, but he really, he had about a minute left or something, but he really needed to do something huge to take back the round, and he just didn't have enough time to do it. So he was kind of in desperation mode, and it was his fault that he gave that round away with that stupid decision right at the start. So Gordon coming out knowing he needed this win to stay in the UFC and putting his all into it, and he got it. Figueiredo, that's 2 losses in a row for him now. Will he continue in the UFC? I would hope they give him another shot. Flyweight, it's not the most stacked division, so we should see more of him. Then the next fight was Khalid Taha versus Sergey Morozov. And look, this is another one of those ones where the grappler outstruck the striker. Taha, throughout the fight, was landing some good stuff, and he throws with big power. The thing he landed most was outside leg kick. And the thing about that, though, is Morozov was timing it quite well and countered heavy when he'd throw, and Taha would often throw that leg kick naked, like nothing in front of it, nothing behind it. And at least half of them that he landed, I'd say, Morozov landed a big counterpunch upstairs. So that kind of negates a lot of the scoring of what he did with his leg kick. Yes, Taha landed some heavy punches as well, especially in the second round, I believe it was. But Morozov was landing heavy punches himself and landing a lot more volume. So he was probably edging it on the striking anyway. And then on top of that, he got takedowns every round and pretty much dominated when he brought it into the grappling realm. Taha would work his way back up on occasion and quite often just get taken back down, like Morozov chaining takedowns together. And yeah, it was a pretty solid outworking by Morozov. He completely outgrappled Taha, and he even edged him on the striking, I'd say. So yeah, Morozov soldiers on. Taha, that's 2 losses in a row now, I think. So he's on shaky ground. Next one up, I believe, is Lemos versus Amanda Lemos versus Montserrat Conejo. Yes, it was. And this was just a blitzing from the start. Lemos came out, didn't even need time to get her range and timing in. She was on from the start, landed a big head kick. It was somewhat blocked, but a lot of it got through. And just landing heavy strikes. And she knocked down Conejo. Now, this is the only one on the card that I'd say you might be able to argue could have been considered a little bit of an early stoppage. Personally, I didn't think it was. I thought it was a fair stoppage because she got knocked down and hit again on the way down. And the way she got knocked down, it was seemed like flash knockout. Seemed like she was pretty much unconscious on the way down. Might have gotten woken up by the impact of hitting the ground because Lemos did land one more hammer fist, but Montserrat was pretty much immediately turning over and trying to get back up. So you could say maybe the ref should have given her a little bit of time to try to show that she's defending herself. But the fact that she looked completely unconscious on the knockdown, I understand that why the ref stopped it, especially because she just ate an unguarded hammer fist as well once she was down there. And an extra shot on the way down. So, yeah, fair stoppage, complete blitzing by Lemos. You know, people might have a little hype behind Montserrat, but I think because I've broken her down on a video before in her debut fight here, and her biggest thing is a head and arm throw. She didn't even get to show if she could use that in this fight because Lemos just didn't even let her get into grappling, just absolutely barnstormed her with superior striking. But as I said in the last video, if she tries to use that head and arm throw against higher ranked opponents in the UFC, people are just going to take her back over and over again. So, yeah, we'll see how long she can survive in there. And bloody Waleed Ismail, the manager, the worst translator in history, because he's not saying what the people are saying, because he translates, because he's also a promoter and a management guy, like an Ali Abdelaziz type. And whenever one of his fighters fights that's Brazilian and he translates for him, he adds his own fucking promotion in there. And yeah, it's kind of funny, but he's going, she already championed, like already put her up there for the belt. I'm like, look, she's looking great, but hold your horses there, buddy. There's a lot. This is the deepest division in female MMA, the UFC strawweight division. So yeah, she's going to need to beat some ranked opponents to get herself in that title contention. And there's some real heavy hitters towards the top of that division. I mean, you got Wei Li, you got Yan, you got Joanna, as in Yan Xiaonan, when I said Yan. You got Joanna there, you got Carla Esparza's been looking great lately. You got, I'm blanking on her name, but the awesome Muay Thai specialist who recently beat Michelle Waterson. Sorry, Marina Rodriguez? I think that's it. And you've got the champion Rose, but you're going to need to get through them to get to her. And then, I mean, you've got... I can't believe I'm blanking on her name again because she's like one of my favorite female fighters. Fuck, what am I doing here? God damn it. Forget it. But she's a really good wrestler, but she hasn't fought in ages. Fuck, I'm kicking myself for not remembering her. But yeah, so Lemos has a long fucking road to climb through before she's talking about getting that title. But hey, she's looking great. Maybe her versus Rodriguez next. I know, that's a huge jump up. Rodriguez had to work her way up a bit more than that, but who knows? All right. What was the next fight on the card? D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez versus Preston Parsons. And man, D-Rod just goes from strength to strength. He, just worked it with straight punches in this one. Parsons came out looking all right, landed some shots of his own, but D-Rod getting behind that strong jab and then following up with strong right hands. It was a little back and forth for the start of the round, but D-Rod started taking it over pretty quickly and then landed an absolute huge shot to Parsons' eye that really backed him up. And from there, it was just a matter of time before D-Rod finished. And yeah, the shot that kind of knocked him down, you knew it was done. And yeah, D-Rod has looked great ever since coming into the UFC. So, yeah. And look, good on Parsons for taking the fight on short notice. Good on D-Rod for accepting the fight on short notice because, a lot of the time the guy who accepts the fight on short notice doesn't get a lot of credit. But it is hard to have to switch up. Like, you've been game planning for another guy your whole fight camp, and then you've got to switch it up on like a week or a couple of weeks' notice. It's a tough thing to do, and D-Rod came out and handled it with absolutely no problems at all. And Parsons took a pretty bad loss here, but he's at least got himself into the UFC. He'll get at least one more shot. So, yeah, that's it. That's the card. And it was a pretty bloody good one. Yeah. On the Wino. Catch you on Wednesday for the Ultimate Fighter review. See you then. Tatiana Suarez. That's the name of the strawweight I was trying to remember. Fuck. Alcohol kills brain cells, kids.